Some of you may remember that a while back I did a video about a kid who was shot by police in a cemetery. Well, I got a lot of comments on that video, which wasn't really a surprise, but what was a surprise to me is to hear just how many people are killed in cemeteries. I wasn't expecting to hear that. And my friend and subscriber Craig Talbot left me a comment telling me about the gravesite that I'm here to visit today. Hey everybody, Steve here at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendal, California, and I'm here today to visit the gravesite of a 29-year-old man who was shot here in this cemetery while visiting his mother's gravesite. It happened on January 1st, 2008, New Year's Day. He was right here standing at this grave visiting his mother, who had died December 14th, 2007, just a couple of weeks earlier, and he was murdered right here at a gravesite. A week later, he was buried with her. I'm guessing they were stacked plots. I know that does occur here a lot in this cemetery. I mean, what are the odds of that? I mean, how unbelievable, right? Now that I'm here in this section, I see that I've never been to this section before. It's really close to the mausoleum here at the top of the hill, but it's in kind of a remote area on a hillside that's kind of away from everything else. There's a residential neighborhood nearby and the freeway is nearby, but as you can see, there's this large hedge and fence here. So really, it's a very private section and very remote. So you can see how something like this could happen here very easily without anyone else being around to notice. Now, it's funny, today I got here and I knew that this was going to be, I could tell by the map that this was going to be in kind of a remote area, so I was expecting to be here all by myself, and I was a little reluctant to come here, but I get here and there's people everywhere near his grave. In fact, there's a family, as you can see, sitting right up here on the hillside just a number of rows away, sitting here visiting their loved one facing his gravesite. The name of the man who was murdered here is Jason Gray, and according to his Find a Gray memorial page, he was born on April 29th, 1978, but the city where he was born isn't listed on his memorial page. And he was 29 years old when he was killed here on January 1st, 2008, 14 years ago. According to the police reports, he was shot multiple times and died right here at the scene. Now, his gravesite is located here in the Mercy section, which is very appropriately named. And I was reading a little bit about this murder, and investigators believe that it was probably gang-related. But I found this dailynews.com blog post online where they interviewed Jason's cousin, who said that he had once been in a gang, but was no longer in a gang and was trying to get his life together, and in fact, he wanted to become a parole officer. According to his cousin, at the time of his death, Jason was living in Elysian Valley, which is just a couple of miles south of the cemetery, as you can see here on the map. The two had attended Belmont High School together, which is just a few miles south of Elysian Park, near downtown LA, where Jason was on the track team. Forest Lawn Memorial Park is one of the nicest and most prestigious cemeteries in Los Angeles, and one of the most famous cemeteries in the world. So that made this story even harder to believe. Forest Lawn representatives in the article said that they weren't aware of any other homicides in this cemetery's history, and it opened back in 1906, which is 116 years ago. Sadly, these days, things like this can happen anywhere and everywhere, and they do. I don't know if they ever solved the case or not. If any of you happen to know any more about this story, please share in the comments section. But just because it was so unusual and extra sad. I mean, who can imagine being murdered when you go to visit your loved one's gravesite, especially your mom who just died a couple of weeks earlier? So many weird stories like this in cemeteries that are just almost impossible to believe, except for the fact that they are true. It was also the first homicide in LA County in 2008. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be the last of that year or any year. I have to tell you, it feels really weird to be standing here on the spot where someone was murdered. When I started this channel almost 5 years ago, I definitely never expected to be visiting a gravesite where someone had been murdered at their future gravesite. Every time I visit a gravesite and tell someone's story and I think that's got to be the strangest, most unusual or most bizarre story that I've ever told, then I find someone else whose story is even stranger. I guess that's just life, right? Life is strange, and the strange things don't just end outside the cemetery. The strangest stories sometimes happen right in the cemeteries. So thank you for joining me today on my visit to the cemetery. Again, I know it's another sad one, but when I heard this story from Craig Talbot, I knew it was one that needed to be shared. So thank you, Craig, once again, for letting me know about another gravesite that needed to be visited and whose story needed to be told. So until next time, thanks for sharing the memories, everybody.